Hi student, myself Savindra Kumar Samal and I am assistant professor in zoology. So today I am going to teach you a very interesting subject like chemical coordination, and I am going to discuss the part 1 of this subject because continuously in further classes I will teach you all the parts. So the first part is what I am going to discuss today is endocrine glands and the hormones. So let's see what are endocrine glands. Endocrine glands are the ductless glands. That means they don't have any duct to secrete their products. So they directly secrete the product into the interstitial fluid or to their bloodstream. So that's why they are known as endocrine system, and whatever secretion they secrete into the interstitial fluid or to the bloodstream are known as the hormones. So here the image shows the female body as well as the male body, that shows very common endocrine glands. If you name it, like starting from the head is your pineal gland, followed by hypothalamus, pituitary, then followed by thyroid, parathyroid, thymus, adrenal, pancreas, ovarian, testes, which are known as the gonads. So endocrine system is made up of glands and the hormones they secrete. The whole combination, that means the gland as well as the products or the hormones they secrete, constitute the whole endocrine system. And if you talk about the functionality or the part of the function of endocrine gland, that means how they coordinate to execute the metabolic activity inside a human body, that is called the whole endocrine system. So when you see the endocrine system, the very that means the major glands that we are going to discuss, which are included in your subject in your syllabus, are hypothalamus, pituitary, which is known as the master regulator of endocrine gland, then pineal body, then thyroid, parathyroid, adrenal, pancreas, gonads, and we are going to discuss various function of their secretion, their hypersecretion as well as hyposecretion. Hypersecretion of gland कहले से माने जतबेले अधिक secrete करंती. The amount of hormone secreted when more, it is called as the hypersecretion, and when it is secreted less, it is called as the hyposecretion. So the function of endocrine system is production and regulation of chemical substances called the hormones. This is the major function of your endocrine system. Now let us focus what a hormone is. So hormones are the chemical substances. They are basically categorized as transmitters or the chemical messengers. So what they do actually, when they secreted into the bloodstream, they target different organs because they are the chemical components which binds to certain receptors present on various organs to the peripheral region, or that they can directly bind to the organs, or they can coordinate through different endocrine glands, so that the instruction coming from the endocrine gland through the messenger, which is the hormone, that reaches to the cell to perform their function. So this is the overall diagram that shows the master gland pituitary that secrete various hormones and how that regulates. So if you see the right side of the image, the pituitary hormone has certain endocrine secretion like that regulates kidney, then it regulates the breast, ovary, overall various organs which are involved in this endocrine system. So hormone regulate the growth, development, mode of tissue function, metabolism and sexual functions. So overall all body functions are done by these hormones which are secreted from the endocrine system. So as I told you, the hyposecretion or hypersecretion, these are actually related to the amount of hormones secreted from the endocrine gland. These are either they must be secreted in a very balanced way. The hormone should be secreted in the balanced way. That means when it is required by the body, they should trigger in a mechanism to function, to exhibit the function. But if they secreted in a uncoordinated manner, either in a high concentration, in a more amount, or in a lower concentration or in a lesser amount, that is actually harmful to the body. they are very dangerous. So controlling the production of the hormones, that is very important for a endocrine system. So how it is coordinated with the various body function, that is very important. So all we are going to discuss in our further slides. So this the left side image, you can see this is the image of the hypothalamus which is present in your brain. That means hypothalamus connected to your pituitary. This is the whole system, actually the major system which coordinates the endocrine system. If you see the right side, that is the image of your brain showing the green highlighted region as the hypothalamus and the followed by the pituitary. Okay, the endocrine system and nervous system, they actually work together. Why that one? Because as we know, pituitary is the master of the endocrine gland, that is actually under the control of hypothalamus. And why I am telling about hypothalamus? Hypothalamus contains the major nerves which actually helps the pituitary gland to function in a coordinated manner. So the coordination between hypothalamus as well as pituitary exhibit the chemical and nervous coordination. So that's why our topic is the chemical coordinations or the hormonal coordination, that means the endocrine system ultimately. Okay. So the hypothalamus is a collection of specialized cells which are located in the brain, and the primary link between these two systems, that is your hypothalamus as well as pituitary, is important. Third point is that the chemical produced by the hypothalamus are generally called as the releasing factor which controls the pituitary. So from this slide we come to know that hypothalamus controls pituitary and ultimately pituitary controls all the endocrine system. So that's why it is the master of endocrine gland and it is under the partial control of hypothalamus. So we come to know about hormone which are secreted from the endocrine gland, and they are broadly classified into two categories. One is lipid soluble hormones and the second one is your water soluble hormones. Most of the lipid soluble hormones are steroid hormones, and one of the example is your thyroid hormone, which is T3 and T4 hormones, which we are going to discuss in further slides. And water soluble hormones are amine hormones, peptide hormones and eicosanoids. Amine and peptide hormones, you all know, they are made up of amino acids. So amine hormones, they are the simple amino acid containing hormones, and the peptide hormones are the long chain of amino acid containing hormones. And eicosanoid hormone we will discuss in later. So as I told you, hypothalamus is important for endocrine system. Basically hypothalamus it has 9 different hormones, and the 9 different hormones, out of these 9 different hormones, 7 are the releasing factors and 2 are the direct hormones which are stored in the posterior pituitary, which we are going to discuss. So what actually hypothalamus does? It regulates emotion, feeding or satiety, that means hunger part, thirst, body temperature, etc. So this is an important part for controlling our body activity. So it controls the release of hormones from the anterior and posterior pituitary. That means both anterior part of the pituitary has 2 parts, one is anterior part and one is posterior part. It has also one intermediate part, that is called intermediate pituitary, but now the classification is different. The intermediate part of the pituitary is kept under the anterior pituitary. So this pituitary is under the control of hypothalamus, and the 7 releasing hormones of hypothalamus are thyrotropin releasing hormone, which is also known as TRH, corticotropin releasing hormone or CRH, gonadotropin releasing hormone or GnRH, growth hormone releasing hormone or GHRH, growth hormone releasing inhibiting hormone, which inhibit the release of growth hormone, then prolactin releasing factor or PRF and prolactin inhibiting hormone or PIH. So why these hormones are known as the releasing hormone or the releasing factor? Because when they act on the pituitary, they induce the release of particular hormones from the pituitary. So they are the releasing factors. Now this is the very enhanced diagram of your pituitary, which is connected to the interlinked with hypothalamus. Now pituitary gland has two parts, one is anterior pituitary and another one is posterior pituitary. So anterior pituitary includes pars tuberalis, pars intermedia and pars distalis. The anterior pituitary has three parts, remember it. So pars tuberalis, pars intermedia and pars distalis. Posterior pituitary includes infundibular stalk and the pars nervosa. So this is very intimately attached to the hypothalamus at the infundibulum region. So the pituitary gland lies where it resides inside the brain. So it lies in the hypophyseal fossa of the sella turcica of sphenoid bone. So in the brain, the higher part upper to the mouth is a sphenoid bone that has a groove which is known as the sella turcica, where the pituitary lies. Actually it is the inner side of the brain, or you can say the ventral side of the brain. It weighs around 500 milligram and measures 1 to 1.5 centimeter in diameter. So let's see the different parts of the pituitary and their functions. So pituitary gland, the anterior part, what I said, is called anterior pituitary, or you can say it as adenohypophysis. This adenohypophysis secretes growth hormone, and this growth hormone secreted from the somatotroph cells of the anterior pituitary. That means somatotroph cell secretes growth hormone. Similar way, the lactotrophs secrete the prolactin hormone, or the lactotrophic cells secrete prolactin hormone. Similar way, the anterior pituitary also contains corticotrophs, the specialized cells which secrete melanocyte stimulating hormone as well as the adenocorticotrophic hormone. Then thyroid stimulating hormone and follicle stimulating thyroid stimulating hormone is secreted from the thyrotroph cells of the adenohypophysis, and follicle stimulating cells hormone secreted from the gonadotrophs. Similar way, luteinizing hormone is also secreted from the gonadotrophs. So these follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormones are known as the gonadotropic hormone. Now let's see about the posterior pituitary. Posterior pituitary actually not involved in secretion of hormones. It stores two types of hormone, that is oxytocin and antidiuretic hormone, which are actually secreted from the nerve endings of the hypothalamus. From the right side diagram you can see the blue cell patch or the nerve cell endings are called as the paraventricular nucleus, and the green patch of the nervous cells are known as the supraoptic nucleus. These two nucleus, the nerve endings are directly connected to the posterior part of the pituitary or the posterior pituitary or neurohypophysis, and they helps for the secretion of oxytocin and antidiuretic hormone or ADH. Now let's see what is the function of this oxytocin and ADH. Oxytocin stimulate smooth muscles contraction, and thus wherever smooth muscles are there, these hormone induce their contraction. So you all know that uterus and mammary glands, they are made up of the smooth muscles, and so oxytocin helps in contraction of the uterus, and thus sometimes it helps in the child delivery. So it is also known as the hormone of parturition. Then similar way, mammary gland, it also induces the growth of the mammary or contraction of the mammary gland. Antidiuretic hormone, it stimulate water reabsorption in the collecting ducts, and thus stimulate the vasoconstriction, that means constriction of your blood vessels. So coming to the next slide, what are the other secretion from the anterior pituitary? The highlighted portion is your pituitary gland. It is known to control all the body growth function, like it induces the liver function by helping the metabolism, bone growth, as well as deposition of adipose tissue and skeletal muscle growth. So growth hormone is essential for the growth and development of the bones, muscles and other tissue or organs of the body. It also enhances the protein synthesis and decreases the use of glucose and promotes the fat destruction. So ultimately it also helps in body metabolism. And the right side images shows some of the abnormalities due to the growth hormone. You can see the very growth there. The right image shows the tallest portion of the world as well as the shortest portion of the world. That is due to the uncoordinated function of your growth hormone. That means a high expression or hyper secretion of growth hormone leads to the gigantism, and that means the larger size of the person, and the stunted growth is also happens due to the hyposecretion of the growth hormone. A similar way, various athletes, they take growth hormone as their part of the diet, or sometimes they take as intramuscular injection to develop their body masculinity. So coming to the secretion of anterior pituitary, it also secretes adenocorticotropin, which actually essential for the growth of adrenal cortex. Adrenal cortex, that is actually the gland, adrenal gland is present in the also called as the suprarenal gland. They are present over the kidney. This adenocorticotropin, they helps induce the adrenal cortex to secrete other hormones or perform various functions that we are going to discuss in further slides. Then thyroid stimulating hormone TSH is also secreted from the anterior pituitary, that directly acts on the thyroid gland, which helps in the production of T3 and T4 hormones as well as the growth of the thyroid. So coming to the anterior pituitary secretion, there are two gonadotropic hormones remaining, that is follicle stimulating hormone as well as the luteinizing hormone. So the function of follicle stimulating hormone is to induce the growth of ovarian follicles, which is the part of the female genitalia, and also it induces the growth and maturation of the sperm of the male organisms. Now the function of luteinizing hormone secreted from the anterior pituitary is, it stimulates the development of the corpus luteum, which is the corpus luteum is the remnant of the Graafian follicle which is ovulated. Actually luteinizing hormone maintains the ovulated Graafian follicles, so they help in the production of progesterone. So the yellow in this diagram, you can see it is a cyclic process how these Graafian follicles or the female gamete, they develop inside the ovary. After ovulation, the yellow part or the vacuum yellow antrum shape structure which is present is known as the corpus luteum. They gradually deteriorate and vanish, but this luteinizing hormone maintain it and helps in the production of progesterone. Now coming to the function of prolactin, they help in the development and growth of the mammary gland, because you all know we are mammals because we have mammary glands, and mammary glands are very essential because they produce milk for the survival of the baby. And this prolactin hormone, what it does, it helps in the growth of these mammary glands, so that they are help in the production of the milk. And when this baby suckles, that means suck the mothers, this motion or this physical contact of a baby with the breast of the mother, that stimulates the production of the prolactin, and it ultimately facilitates the release of the milk. Now we have also melanocyte stimulating hormone, which is secreted from the anterior part of the pituitary gland. Previously it is known as the pars intermediate. The intermediate part of the mammary of the pituitary secretes melanocyte stimulating hormone, but now this intermediate part is considered as the anterior part of the pituitary. So I have written the heading as the secretion from the anterior pituitary gland. So this regulates the skin pigmentation. As you all know, pigmentation or the melanin deposition on the skin it happens due to this hormone. It protects our skin from various harmful radiation which are coming from the sun, and also protect our skin from various harmful exposure of the sunlight. So this is also important part of your endocrine system, and this melanocyte stimulating hormone is very much essential for human body. Now let's see the secretion of the posterior pituitary gland. This antidiuretic hormone, as I explained earlier, it stimulates the reabsorption of the water by the renal tubules. So posterior pituitary, what it does, it stimulates the adrenal gland as a result of which this resorption of water takes place. How it happens? It happens with the help of this angiotensin mechanism, which you are going to study in your later classes. Okay, so this hypersecretion and hypersecretion of this ADH has some disorders. So we are going to also, we will discuss this in the future classes. So one of the disease which is associated with the ADH or antidiuretic hormone is diabetes insipidus. That means frequent urination. Okay, so secretion of the posterior lobe of the pituitary also associated with one type of another hormone, that is called oxytocin. Oxytocin I have discussed earlier, but I want to elaborate it. It stimulates the uterus to contract during labor, so it facilitates easy delivery. It's called as the parturition. The synthetic version of this hormone is nowadays available in medicals or with the physician, and that helps easy delivery for the baby. Now coming to another gland, that is pineal gland. The pineal gland, it is, the name come from because it is like pine cone shaped, and it is only about 1 centimeter in diameter. It is suspended in the third ventricle of the diencephalon. Ventricles are the spaces present inside the brain, and diencephalon is all you must have studied, that brain is divisible into various parts like progencephalon, mesencephalon and rhomencephalon and diencephalon. So it is the cerebellar region. So what it secretes two hormones. One is melatonin, another one is serotonin. Melatonin inhibits early puberty. It also helps the day and night cycle. So basically diurnal cycle is maintained by the secretion of this hormone, this gland, and it also regulates the time of sleep, body temperature and various biological clock or activity related to biological clock. And the second hormone is the serotonin. It is a neurotransmitter that regulates intestinal movement. Sorry, the T is missing, I think, and affects appetite, mood, sleep. So basically the serotonin, it is known as the mood hormone or mood swing hormone. So it regulates our also various activities. So basically the function of pineal gland is to regulate the biological clock and activity of the body. So next, coming to the second gland, coming from the head region up to the neck region, the first gland what we meet is the thyroid gland. It consists of two lobes, one on either side of the thyroid cartilage. You can see from the diagram, it is just present inside, just near the neck. The lobes are the cone shaped, about 5 centimeter in length and 3 centimeter in width. So the position, it is situated in front of the larynx, which is known as the voice box, and trachea at the level of 5th, 6th and 7th vertebral, 7th cervical and 1st thoracic vertebrae. So as you know, our cervical vertebrae, there are 7 in number, so it is present in the 5th, 6th and 7th, and the starting of the thoracic vertebrae, the region placed where the thyroid is placed. It weighs about 25 grams and the shape is roughly butterfly shaped. Now coming to the function of this gland, it secretes the hormones which are basically majorly 3 types of hormones. One is triiodothyronine, that is T3, tetraiodothyronine, slide author change कर परिया, ठीक है, pause करियो, पानी पी को याद बंद करो, ठीक pause कर दियो. Thyroid gland secretes very vital hormones, that is it plays a vital role in the metabolism. It regulates the body metabolic processes, like the hormone which are going to discuss, which secreted by the thyroid. First one is your calcitonin. It influences bone and calcium metabolism, maintains a hormone homeostasis of calcium in the blood plasma. Homeostasis means it maintains the balance. That means once the calcium level increases, the secretion of calcitonin also increases, which causes the reabsorption of the calcium and decrease the blood calcium level. The other hormones are the thyroxine, which is known as the T4, and triiodothyronine, which is known as the T3. This is essential for basal metabolic rate. It regulates various physical activity, basically metabolism. That means when a person's body burns calories in its resting position, is, you can say it, that metabolism, which includes catabolism as well as anabolism. Catabolism means various processes, breakdown processes takes place. Anabolism means various constructive processes takes place. So hyposecretion of T3 and T4 causes various diseases like cretinism, myxedema, Hashimoto's diseases, and these diseases we will discuss in our further session. Hypersecretion of the T3, T4 leads to some other diseases like Graves' disease, goiter, and Bezdow's disease. Then the next gland is your parathyroid gland, which is very intimately attached with the thyroid gland. From the diagram you can see the ventral part of the thyroid gland has 4 patches of yellowish gland, that is actually the parathyroid gland. The parathyroid gland is located in the same neck region. There are the 4 small parathyroid glands, 2 bounded in each posterior surface of the lobe. That means if you dissect the thyroid gland into 2 equal halves, you will find 2 parathyroid glands each. The shape is spherical and the length is 0.3 to 0.6 centimeter, and each of the gland weighs about 25 milligram. The 2 pairs of parathyroid glands are located on the dorsal or back side of the thyroid. They secrete one of the basic hormone, which is the parathyroid hormone, which plays a role in the metabolism of phosphorus. The little results in cramping, too much results in the osteoporosis in the kidney. That means the less secretion leads to muscle cramping, and the hypersecretion leads to osteoporosis and kidney damage. Why osteoporosis? We are going to discuss it. That means definitely calcium is lost or phosphorus is lost from the bone. Now this parathyroid hormone and calcitonin, PTH stands for parathyroid hormone, CT stands for calcitonin. Calcitonin secreted from the thyroid gland and parathyroid hormone secreted from the parathyroid gland. These two are interlinked. What happens when the body calcium level increases? It stimulates the thyroid gland to secrete calcitonin, and this secretion of the calcitonin directly act on the thyroid gland. This increased calcium level induce the thyroid gland to secrete calcitonin, and this calcitonin helps in the resorption of calcium. So the calcium level, resorption of the calcium from the blood, so the calcium level inside the blood decreases. Basically the decrease in calcium level again triggers the parathyroid gland to secrete parathyroid hormone, which promotes the release of calcium from the bone to the extracellular matrix, and the need of calcium is regained, or it is fulfilled. And this is the process how parathyroid hormone and calcitonin hormone acts antagonistically or side by side. The next gland what we are going to discuss is the pancreas. Pancreas are situated at the C-shaped loop of the duodenum. Pancreas are situated at the C-shaped loop of your duodenum, and they measures about 12.5 to 15 centimeter. The pancreas has three parts. From the diagram you can see it has head region, body region and the tail region. What pancreas does? If you take the cross section of the single lobe of your pancreas, it looks like the right top corner image. How it looks? It has pancreatic duct, connective tissue septums, exocrine cells which we are not going to discuss about that, then endocrine cells which are the yellowish patch of the cells. These endocrine cells are the interest of our study, which are known as the islets of the Langerhans. These are the small cluster of the cells located in the pancreas. The enhanced image of your islet looks like this. It has various types of the cell like the alpha cell which secrete the glucagon, beta cells which secrete insulin, delta cells which secretes somatostatin. Now let's discuss one by one what are the function. Beta cells secrete the hormone insulin, which is essential for maintaining the normal human body glucose level. That means blood glucose level. So if the insulin hormone level decreases, the blood glucose level increases, and the increased blood glucose level above the normal can be considered as diabetes mellitus. Then alpha cells, they facilitate the breakdown of glycogen to glucose. The hormone which is involved or secreted from the alpha cells are the glucagon. They does this function, that means they convert the glycogen to glucose. Then delta cells which secretes somatostatin helps to maintain the secretion of insulin as well as glucagon. So this is the function of the pancreas. The major role of the pancreas is to maintain the blood glucose level. Now coming to the adrenal, these are the triangular shape of the glands. The right top corner you can see they are the triangular glands, and they are located on the top of each kidney. That means a pair of adrenal glands are present in human body. Inside they have medulla and cortex. That these are the two major layer of the gland. That is the medulla, which is the middle part of the gland. If you take the cross section, you can see the middle part is your medulla and cortex is the outer region. In an adult, adrenal gland is about 3 to 5 centimeter in height and 2 to 3 centimeter in width, and they have a very little thickness of 1 centimeter with the mass of 3.5 to 5 gram. That means the mass varies from 3.5 to 5 gram. Now let's see the secretion of this gland. So as I told you, this adrenal cortex, adrenal is divisible into cortex and medulla. The cortex part of the adrenal gland is divisible into 3 regions, that is zona glomerulosa, which is the outer side, which remains to the outer side of the cortex, and that secretes mineralocorticoids, one of the hormone mineralocorticoids or the corticoids. Then zona fasciculata, which is the middle part of the adrenal cortex, they have columnar cells, they secrete glucocorticoids. And zona reticularis, which is the innermost layer remaining outside to the medulla, they secrete androgens. Now let's see what's the function of these 3 mineralocorticoids, glucocorticoids and androgens. So glucocorticoids are involved in the regulation of the metabolism of glucose. That means these glucocorticoids are specifically involved in glucose metabolism, and they are of the 2 types. One is the cortisol and the other one is your corticosterone. Mineralocorticoids, they maintain the water inside the body. That means they maintain the water as well as electrolyte. Basically the mechanism lies in the electrolyte maintenance, as well, due to which water is maintained inside the body. The example is aldosterone. And the zona reticularis, which secretes the sex hormones, are the androgens. They have the role in the secondary sexual characters or sexual characters. So if we will discuss about individual hormones of adrenal cortex, like cortisol, they regulates carbohydrate, protein, fat metabolism. So overall body's metabolism is maintained by cortisol. Their hyposecretion results in disease like Addison's disease, and the hypersecretion disease like Cushing's disease. Then corticosterone, like cortisol, it is a steroid, but it influences the potassium and sodium metabolism. You all know the ion channel mechanism of retention of water is due to sodium and potassium ion. So majority of the sodium and potassium ion is maintained by this corticosterone. Aldosterons are essential in regulating electrolytes and water balance by promoting sodium and chloride retention and potassium excretion. So androgens, as I told you, these are responsible for secondary sexual characters like appearance of the beard or hair on your chest. So these are also very much important for our body activity. So secretion from the adrenal medulla. Medulla has two type of secretion, that is your epinephrine and norepinephrine. Let's talk about epinephrine. Epinephrine is also called the adrenaline. It elevates the systolic blood pressure, that means it elevates the blood pressure, increases the heart rate and cardiac output. So as a result of which it speeds the glucose transfusion to the cells, so giving a instant energy to the individual. So it is often used to counteract the allergic reaction happened in some individuals. So what are the other part? That is your norepinephrine. Norepinephrine is released when the body is under stress. In a stress condition, norepinephrine is released. It is also known as the hormone of fight and flight, because the sudden activity of human beings are involved due to this norepinephrine hormones. So it actually triggers a group of muscles, as well as it triggers the heart drop in the heart rate. So it sometimes saves the animals, saves the human beings or animals. Now coming to the gonadal hormone. So gonadal hormones, we have to study about the male gonads and the female gonads. So first of all, secretion of the female gonads or the ovaries. What are the endocrine function of the ovaries? So the right image shows the female reproductive system, which majority part is your ovary, then uterus. So ovaries produces several estrogen hormones and progesterone hormones. These hormones prepare the uterus for pregnancy. These two hormones prepare the uterus for pregnancy. They promote the development of mammary glands, because the associated hormones I have already told you, just reminding you. So it play a role in sex drive and develop secondary sexual characteristics. Estrogen is essential for the growth, development and maintenance of the female sex organs. Now secretion of the testis. Whatever we talk about the female part or female gonad, now we are talking about, or we are going to study about the male part of the gonad, that is your testis. Testis produces the male sex hormone, which is called as the testosterone. It is essential for normal growth and development of the male sex organs. Testosterone is responsible for erection of the penis, which facilitate the easy sexual intercourse. So these are the various importance of endocrine system. In our next class, we will study in detail about the mechanism of hormone action. With this, I am concluding my class. Thank you.